Welcome everyone to the 140th edition of the Nuthouse podcast brought to me by boxsam.com. I'm your host Andy Patterson. Apologies about yesterday, family commitments etc. and some illnesses had made me have to kind of postpone till tonight. Just to let the listeners know, I think we're having some bandwidth problems with Mixler as well, so if it does go down, it's not our fault unfortunately, but we'll try and get the recording out. With me today I've got Kurt Ward, Alex Morris, Paul Webb's on the phone somewhere, Steve Wellens, David the Hater Lowback, Adam Smith and Donnie Baseball might be around sometime later on. Now Saturday night, many observers believe that Leo Santa Cruz has proven that he's legit. We certainly learned a lot about him though, as he finally stepped up in levels. Expectations were high. In many respects, he certainly delivered as Leo Santa Cruz scored a majority decision victory over Abner Mahrez for 2 featherweight title belts, which I'm going to discuss a little bit later on. Now, listening to the fight, the atmosphere at Staples Centre was certainly brilliant. It was sounding very, very good crowd who seemed to be really in the majority of the side of Leo Santa Cruz. And not a bad chief support as well. To be honest, we're going to give past match to the PBC on Saturday night. Some people are going on about that it's fight of the year candidate. I wouldn't go quite that far. It was a decent fight, good fight. I wouldn't say it was fight of the year candidate. In fact, some of us believe that Marco Huck against Kolatsky was actually a better fight, but that's just opinions. Now on to the fight itself, I personally had it a draw. I haven't rewatched it, but I think Mahrez edged some of those earlier rounds and tried to show that bull-like style that made him such a force at the bantamweight. But as the fight wore on, I thought that it was clear up at featherweight that Mahrez simply just couldn't sustain the pace. I eventually saw Leo Santa Cruz get a grip of the fight by the latter half. Now, Dave, I think you actually picked Mahrez last week, mate. Give me your take on the fight. Pretty much how we've seen it going out, actually, I think, if you think about Mahrez, move up in featherweight, maybe just hasn't got that, that stuff that he had at bantamweight, mate. I just really don't think he's got it up at featherweight.
Well, firstly, that's false. I picked Santa Cruz last week.
Oh, sorry, who was it? Steve, that's who it was. Steve.
Donnie also picked Mahrez. He started it. He started on the forum called the War Wagon of Victory for Mahrez loading up here.
Oh, I remember that one.
Anyway, yeah, I was impressed, even though I picked Santa Cruz, I was impressed by his craft in there. And I was impressed by Mahrez with how he clearly he's not as gun shy as many thought he would be after the Gonzalez knockdown. So I thought it was a really fun fight. Not quite dramatic enough to be fight of the year because I think after 3-4 rounds, I think Santa Cruz really started to get the better of most of the action. And he was landing the cleaner stuff, really nice stuff on the inside and at range. And Mahrez was becoming more and more desperate and more wild with his work. A lot of it landing off the arms and back of Santa Cruz, and it was a little bit sloppy as it went on. But I was really impressed by Santa Cruz's chin, his composure, and overall a very good performance from him. I think, Andy, you scored it a draw. I mean, that's...
Yeah. Well, to be honest,
you're up for Bellow of the Week for that one.
Well, to be honest, let's be honest here, right? I was seen some comments online. People who were there, they think they either had either a point or two to Santa Cruz or a draw. Now, the people who were scoring it wider were the ones that were on Twitter and stuff, so I'm assuming those are ones that were watching on television with the hindsight of, I don't know.
There were a few close rounds early as well.
Yeah, you need to remember, I mean, I think it was round 2, round 3, I think it went either way. I was on the forum with Adam and Fuego. I think Fuego stated himself, actually, that I think after 6, he could have seen it either 5-1 or 4-2 to Mahrez. As I say, there were some close rounds in there, and if you look at the scorecard of 117-111, it looks like that Santa Cruz may have got Santa Cruz would have got the shade of all the close rounds, but it looks like.
Well, so you were watching it on a stream then?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I watched it on my HD TV, fine quality, crystal clear,
How much is it? Come on, tell me. Just make it a stealth comment, just so I know how much you're earning a month.
Yeah, I didn't buy it. My brother bought it, but yeah.
Aye, right. Who? Was this Chang?
No, not the Chinese brother. Well, no, I mean, I think it made a difference for sure. And I think, did you have, what commentary did you have? Do you have, Teddy and Joe? Because
I did. Teddy was sounding kind of like he was going to orgasm his pants on Santa Cruz.
Well, yeah, after a while, I mean, they were really, behind Santa Cruz. I thought it was justifiably, because I thought Santa Cruz was really taking over the fight and putting on a schooling eventually. But I guess if you're anti-PBC, maybe anti-commentator, you could see it the other way.
Well, I don't think I've seen anyone actually score it for Mahrez. Kurt, I mean, I think you had it quite, 160, 112 to Santa Cruz. I mean, did anyone have it a draw like I did, or anyone have it for Mahrez, or anyone even going to...
One of the judges had it a draw, didn't they?
114, mate, aye.
Hey, are you in good company?
See, I bet some of these judges are bought and paid for sometimes, you know. Anyway, Steve, you did pick Mahrez, mate. How did you think about? I mean, he did struggle, I suppose. I mean, if you think about at distance, in close, he did do his best, but it did look like Santa Cruz was probably equal to everything he had inside. Not got the stamina up at that weight, I don't think. He's probably past his best, but even at distance, he had zero chances trying to outbox Santa Cruz with that reach.
No, I picked Mahrez beforehand, but I'm not going to use that as a way of defending him in the fight. He lost, I thought, pretty clearly. He was holding too much. He wasn't throwing enough punches. Every time he threw punches, it was just to get in range and hold. It was like classic journeyman moves. I wasn't the only one who noticed that, because I saw I can't remember who it was, whether it was Twitter or what, somebody said they wanted to hear what the CompuClinch numbers were, which I thought was quite good, because it was strange, because Mahrez, he couldn't sustain anything. He was just throwing these pitter-patter punches, and every opportunity he got to grab onto Santa Cruz he could. But saying that, Santa Cruz, even though he was moving up from Super Bantams as well, he looked bigger, stronger, fresher, and I suppose he went some way to redeeming himself in my eyes, which is a strange thing to say given that he's an undefeated fighter. But I like the way that he used the jab. He fought when he had to, especially the last round was pretty good, and he got the crowd going. It was just an all good round feel, good factor at the end of the fight, I felt, for the PBC. It was a good fight from the PBC, and maybe they're going to start surprising us now and pitching their guys together in good fights. You know, we can hope. But I still like Santa Cruz. I don't think he will drop down to super bantamweight, but I'd like to see him do so and fight his rivals there and settle the score. And but saying that about the scoring, yeah, I didn't score the fight because I don't usually tend to, and just trying to watch it on like a little YouTube stream the next morning, I felt Santa Cruz won handily enough, to be honest with you. I don't think there was any debate in the scoring. I'd give it to him by about 3 or 4 rounds. But overall, yeah, it was pretty good stuff. Mahrez pretty much finished at any decent level, and he could maybe get a few paydays as... maybe gatekeeper's too strong a word, but they could throw him to the wolves against a couple of guys. But as for Santa Cruz, it just shows that this is the type of fight that he needed. He raised his game from the level of opposition that he's been fighting recently, and if you put guys usually who are hungry in good fights against good opposition, you will get good fights like this, so hopefully they won't go to the stream of cab drivers again for Santa Cruz. But all in all, yeah, pretty good fight. Not fight of the year, but in a pretty weak year, I wouldn't say it was too far off, to be honest.
Kurt, you think after that performance from Santa Cruz that he's proven that he is legit, that he is a legit contender and a legit, well, probably maybe, I wouldn't say elite, but certainly world level fighter?
Yeah, I think like Steve said, he needed that name opponent again after having a couple of years against easy opponents. I mean, it's...
Donnie, mute your mic, mate. Sorry, Kurt, on you go, mate.
Okay, yeah, I will, sorry.
Yeah, and I think he did look the fresher guy. I thought, last week I predicted Santa Cruz would win. I thought this was a bit of a cash-out fight for Mahrez, where they'd just make this fight for the sake of it because it's an easy fight to make. But Mahrez, I think he showed that he's still got something left. And although I had him losing quite wide in the end, I think the first half of the fight, he showed that he wanted to win. He wasn't just there for the payday and just to leave the sport. He was quite sloppy. He was eating shots as the fight wore on, and Santa Cruz just used his bigger frame. He can control distance more, and I just felt he could land the better shots. I mean, it was a case of two fighters who really couldn't hurt each other badly, and I think both was comfortable in taking each other's shots, but Mahrez was just more sloppy, and the accurate shots were coming from Santa Cruz, and he just used his youthfulness and his size to get the job done in the end. It was a decent fight, but some people are saying it's fight of the year, but I just think that reflects more on the lack of fight of the year candidates we've had so far. I mean, we've still got a few months left, and we could have a spate of them, but there's not many good fights that have happened, sadly. And this fight, I think, first 6-7 rounds was quite competitive, and it was a good fight. But I think Santa Cruz swept the last last half, and I think Mahrez was slowly getting beaten down. His face at the end told the story. I think, yeah, it was, and he's shown now, but that, when he has to step up, he can, and it's going to be, it's going to be different when we see him in with if we do, with a legit featherweight. That's the problem for him, because obviously Mahrez is not a legit featherweight either. So it's going to be interesting where he goes next. And Mahrez, I mean, Steve said he can still pick up decent paydays because of his name value, and I still think he'll look at that fight, and I mean, he's talking about a rematch, so he's obviously still got something that he wants to prove, and I think he showed me and a lot of others that he's still got something left when most felt that he probably didn't.
Alex, fight of the year for you, mate?
No, it's harsh to say that a bit, really, and it just outright say no, it was not fight of the year, because it was a really good fight, but I just thought it was a bit too one-sided, a bit too smooth sailing for Leo Santa Cruz for a lot of the fight. I think that Mahrez, the way I predicted the fight, I thought that Leo would win the fight, but I thought that he would come out actually doing what Mahrez did and go out and just try and blitz him really early and do what a replication of what Gonzalez did to Mahrez and knocked him out basically. But instead we saw Mahrez come steaming out in the first couple of rounds, just trying to really lay it on Leo. And Leo looked, he looked a bit flustered by it. He looked like he just didn't know how to cope with it. And during those first couple of rounds, and again, in the last two maybe, or the last one, it was it was a really competitive, scrappy, just really good signs of infighting, and what you come to expect from typical Mexican brawlers, and especially what we hyped up originally from Leo Santa Cruz. We a couple of years ago at least, we all were excited about him. We were saying, oh, he's the mini Margarito. He's got these, he's a massive volume puncher. I think PBC mentioned he's got the record for most punches landed per fight or something, or per round at the moment. Simply because he just throws so many. And the way Mahrez came out, he just blew his load, I think, and Leo just controlled him with excellent counter shots and excellent jab, really good uppercuts. When Mahrez was coming on, just those uppercut counters, he just didn't know what to do, and the corner work was really telling from both men as well. You can see that Leo's corner was very calm, very collected. We told him to stick to his plan because it was working, and Mahrez, they just seemed very flustered. They just didn't know what to do with it. I guess they weren't expecting this controlled boxer from Leo Santa Cruz, and it's very refreshing to see that fighting, bum after cab driver after, bin man hasn't tainted Leo Santa Cruz's abilities. And I think we all sort of started underestimating him a little bit because he was fighting the dregs of society, as it were. So it's good to see him up where he belongs, and as a great fighter, and it's really sort of refreshed people's memories, I think, on how he would do in the Frampton and Quigg, and well, maybe not the Rigo fight, but certainly Frampton and Quigg. Although by the sounds of it, those fights are off the table now.
Paul, Alex made a good comment there actually about Santa Cruz's opposition leading into this fight. I mean, I dare say if you watch some of his opponents that he fought, there was always a worry that he maybe stagnate or even regress actually. But it showed that when put under pressure, he can put it all together on the night.
I think a lot of fighters have a thing where they say they fight to the quality of their opponent, so they sometimes fight down to the opponent, and I think Santa Cruz has been in with so many average or unheralded fighters that we've not really been able to see the best of him in fights where he's got early stoppages against like some Manuel Roman. You sort of say, well, he should be doing that, and then in fights where he's taken a few rounds where he's gone the distance, he's been up for criticism. But I've defended Santa Cruz numerous times before, because a lot of people are starting to sort of write a guy off when he's unbeaten, he's winning fights. It's not solely down to him who he's fighting. And he was put in with a decent opponent in Mahrez, and I had him quite clear. I had it 116, 112. I thought Mahrez struggled to fight 3 minutes of the round. I thought he gave away rounds that he could have won. And I thought Santa Cruz was decent last night. I mean, I'd rather see him at Super Bantam, but I mean, to answer the question, I just think he needs these good quality opponents, and I think that it showed that it's not just a hype thing with him. Al Heyman's not daft. He's not paying this guy $750,000 and last night $1.25 million for no reason. He obviously believes in his ability. He's just been very well protected, but he's been maneuvered into a position now where, he's 31-0, I think, and he can strafe between the two weights, and there are good fights for him at both weight classes. So he's in a very, very good spot. And his profile in America is huge. I mean, he's been on Mayweather cards. He is very well known, and the crowd last night was excellent, which was a big change for a PBC event. And if they push him, I think he could be a real option for the PBC on the West Coast, certainly.
Adam, do you think either for winner or loser that like Lee Selby might even get lined up against like Mahrez or Santa Cruz next? I mean, I think Santa Cruz is aiming for Jesus Cuellar, who's the actual WBA title holder. So we're next for either two of them.
I think Mahrez certainly needs to move back down in weight.
I agree with that.
I mean, people talking up last night as the fight of the year candidate. It does show it's been a poor year up to press, but I struggled to get into it, to be honest. Mahrez came out, nicked a couple of early rounds with just work rate and trying to bulldoze through Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz showed his class and ran away with it late on, to be honest. It was, I think, the fight on the undercard was probably more exciting for myself. But, yeah, Santa Cruz, I mean, it's about time he moved on to a decent level and, he showed he's got the talent, and the ability to really hold down a position in the maybe certainly top 10 guys that Heyman's got on his sizable roster. So that's what the future holds for Santa Cruz. Who he faces, it could be anyone, to be honest. The title mess is just boggles my mind on a weekly basis. Mahrez needs to come back down south, but Selby, yeah, I could see that. Why not? Obviously, with the Heyman influence on both sides of that deal, I could certainly see that, and Mahrez might get picked up as an opponent somewhere down the line for Quigg or Frampton. I can see that as well, moving back down to Super Bantam. But what did Mahrez get paid last night? Do we know?
Just under $1 million, was it not?
Oh, was it? Yeah. See, that's the problem. You've got when you're paying fighters that have, I'm not going to say it was one-sided by any stretch, but when fighters are getting paid, $750,000 for getting beat reasonably soundly, there's no wonder that they're not going to travel to the UK to fight. But we'll no doubt come on to fighters coming over to the UK later on in the pod.
Donnie, I know you're only with us briefly, mate. I think you're going into class or you're going into court to represent the asylum in a lawsuit that we've got pending just now, mate. Give me your take. I mean, you were bigging up Mahrez on the forum last week, mate. So, the floor's now yours, mate.
Yeah, well, I really thought that Mahrez was the superior boxer going into the fight, and what we found out from Leo Santa Cruz is that he has more skills in the tank than we necessarily realized. And I think it reminded me a little bit of Sergey Kovalev when we all thought he was just sort of a straight up and down, 1-2 type puncher, and then he went in there with a master boxer like Bernard Hopkins, and he actually outboxed the boxer, right? He boxed Hopkins, and he schooled him, right? And no one ever could have seen that coming. And I think the same is true with Mahrez and Santa Cruz, which is that Mahrez was the Olympian, Mahrez had the amateur pedigree, Mahrez was more versatile, and the only thing we'd ever seen from Santa Cruz, as Alex said, was, we thought it was the mini Margarito, that he could just come through anything, eat punches, and, he was just going to land more on you than you were going to land on him, and his shots were going to matter more. And that's what we thought Leo Santa Cruz was, and we found out that there's another dimension to Leo Santa Cruz's game. And all credit to him. I knocked him. I, hated on him partially because he had such a run of shitty opponents. And also people were saying, well, that's not his fault. Heyman picked those opponents. Fair enough, that's true. But to me, when Heyman was picking those sorts of, basically garbage opponents, to me, that was a statement of belief, or should I say lack of belief in Santa Cruz's abilities, right? In other words, why would you pick such awful opponents for a fighter if you think you've got the goods, right? If you think you've got a good fighter, why wouldn't you put him in there with good guys? And so I thought maybe Heyman was just saying, well, this guy sells a lot of tickets, because he does sell a lot of tickets. The Mexican-American fans really love him, and they definitely come out to see him fight. They came out to see him fight last night. The Staples Center was nearly packed. And, I thought, okay, he's just grooming a ticket seller. But Leo Santa Cruz can fucking fight. He can flat out fight. And he fought a guy that we all thought was a superior boxer and he didn't come in guns blazing. He was patient, he was careful, and he picked him apart. He caught him coming in. He used his reach advantage to a great degree. He controlled the distance. He fought as good a fight as a fighter of his ability could fight. I have nothing but praise for him, but the only thing is I just hope he doesn't go back to being a garbage picker. I just hope he doesn't go back to fighting shitty fighters. And one last thought I would add is that if the political divides in boxing didn't exist, to me, right now, the most interesting fight, it may not be a title fight, it may not be anything else, but the most interesting fight in boxing, or maybe not the most interesting fight in boxing, but one of the most interesting fights in boxing would be the fight that at one time would have been for the ultimate super bantamweight supremacy, and now would be a fight between two guys whose career is on the slide and both of whom desperately need a big win. Who wants to see Mahrez versus Donnie? Remember that when that was the fight? Remember when that was the fight to be made? And now both guys are on the slide. Both guys have taken bad losses. Both guys are trying to resurrect their careers. I would love to see that fight, but unfortunately the politics make that unlikely.
Donnie, you're taking one small step for man there, mate, by the sounds of it.
What do you mean?
You're fucking sound like you're phoning from Afghanistan up in the fucking Tora Bora Mountains or something like that.
Road. I'm on I-95 on the way to class, so it's best I can do.
Okay, mate. Alex, I mean, WBA, just have to shit on them for a wee bit. I mean, Queller was classed as the regular champion before the fight. I think he's defended the title 3 or 4 times. WBA, in the infinite wisdom, disregard their own rules and create the super title for Mahrez and Santa Cruz. It's a complete utter fucking joke, mate.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was making the point just before the fight is, what the fuck are they playing at? That decision seemed to have been made just literally a couple of days before the fight happened. They just want to get in on the fight and, get their greedy little hands on their 5% from the fighters. It's the fact that they've already got a champion in the division, the champion that's already established, who's already defended the belt a couple of times, I think. And they just say, well, actually, we're not going to upgrade that guy. What we're going to do is bring in these 2 guys, one of which who's never fought at heavyweight before, one of which who's not even ranked with us in their top 15, and we're going to say that these guys can fight for our super belt. And then after that, the winner doesn't have to fight the already established champion for 18 months. It's, what's the point? They're not even listening to their own rules. They're not even, I don't understand how they work. Yeah, they can make things up as they go along. That's clearly what they're doing, but they don't even adhere to the things they're making up. It's just pure insanity with them. And, to drift off the topic of this fight briefly, there's the whole Broner Khabib Alekburdiev fight as well. They're trying to make that for the WBA belt at 140 pounds, and they've already got an interim champion there who, because Danny Garcia used to have the WBA belt there, he moved up in weight to 147. Their interim champion is not being upgraded, bizarrely. I thought that's what an interim champion is for, to be, in case the champion's not fighting at the weight, but no, that's Jose Benavidez Jr., I think. He's got the interim belt. No, he stays as the interim. These 2 knobheads are going to be fighting for the belt, even though both of them are coming off a loss. Alekburdiev hasn't fought in 18 months, and Broner is just a fucking cock.
Well, nothing you can argue about that, actually.
I think on the WBA, Darren Barker, on his interview this week, made a decent point that how can someone like, I know the people think we pick on him, but how can someone like Scott Quigg call himself a world champion if he's not even the best in his organisation, never mind, the best in his division? It's an absolute mess.
Oh, see another one. I just noticed super middleweight's getting a complete joke. I mean, they still got Andre Ward ranked as the super champ, even though he hasn't fought there for almost 2 years. They then got what's his name, Chudinov. He's the regular champion, and then they've got that Feigen Boots who's with Sutherland as an interim champion who just won the title recently. I mean, what is the fucking point?
No, it's chaos. It's
money, and it's sanctioning fees.
We be arseholes, we be crooks, fucking international.
They don't even care.
Boxing frauds.
I think the worst thing is we're used to having it at world title level. We're used to, them trying to make up belts at world title level. But the problem we've got now is where 20 years ago these organisations would get bribed for rankings, and that just happened. Bob Lee and the IBF and all the organisations that took money off Don King and Bob Arum. because they're not doing that anymore, or probably aren't doing that as much anymore.
Well, of course they are. Of course they are.
But they've got a legalised way of doing it now. So international, intercontinental, European, all of those belts they're the ability to buy rankings, because you can take two guys who aren't ranked in the top 15 and slag them in a WBA international fight, which will give them a top 10 ranking. And you can't, rather than, put money in a brown paper bag and shove it through the WBA's door, they're able to just buy a Mickey Mouse title, and the WBA's rules, or the WBC, they're all culpable of doing it, will allow you to push them up the rankings. The greed and the disgustingness from all of them, it goes well beyond just world title level. These new belts we've never had to deal with before are just making it a piss take, to the point where you're getting TV networks and newspapers and stuff even they are getting confused, but they don't even know how to describe the fight they're watching.
Do you know what though? There's no solution. I've been asking the question, sporadically since I've been on here. There is no viable solution, and the person who's come closest to a solution is actually Al Heyman, as he edges towards a UFC/PBC belt. That's the closest we've come. Like it or not, that's the closest we've come to clarity.
Wait a minute here. I've just
hate it if you want to, but that is the closest that we're going to get. Is that if Al Heyman monopolizes boxing, he can make his own belt, then for better or for worse, there'll be one champion.
I'm just looking through some of the rankings just now, especially relating to the WBA. Now, am I right in saying Andre Berto is the interim WBA champ? I think he is. So you've got Thurman and Mayweather, right, as title holders. Then up at light middleweight, you've got Mayweather, Lara, and Jack Culkay. You then go up at middleweight, Golovkin, Jacobs, and Eubank Jr. all got WBA titles, and not one of them is going to fight each other.
Well, they've only got now. There's something like out of the potential total amount of world champions, I think there's only about 10 places where the WBA there basically has 10 world titles left, either interims or super champs in various different divisions. They'll have that filled in by the end of the year. Every weight class will have 3 world champions in the WBA.
The question I have is it worth it? Like, why do these fighters, why do these promoters bother paying the sanctioning fees? What's so, like, there's two fans who are going to view this. There's casuals and then there's, like, hardcores. Hardcores are going to know these belts are worth shit. And if there's casuals in the room, the hardcores are going to tell them. Sports journalists, for the most part, they know these belts are worth shit. A lot of them criticize the belts. So who exactly are the fighters and the promoters trying to gain the respect of by announcing, well, this fight's for the WBA, blah, 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 and then at the end of the fight...
Well, I wouldn't even say it's a casuals, because I was reading an article with Rubinsky, the Russian promoter today, and he's mentioned Chikachev, who's the IBO champion, and that guy's going to be, he's a world champion and all that stuff. This is the IBO we're talking about. That's not one of the top 4.
The casuals, I mean, like, the casuals aren't going to know one belt from another anyway. So
exactly.
They could just make something up. They could just put a little Toys R Us belt in their hand at the end of the fight if that's all they're wanting for. Then they don't have to pay any sanctioning fees. I mean,
Exactly. That's why they're doing it. They get these titles. Casuals know that there's vaguely 3 letters means a belting organisation. They don't know what the 3 letters are, or it could be the WBU, WBF, whatever. That's still a title to them, and they can label it title fight to them, and that's all they need to hear in their minds. Title fight. And Paul mentioned it earlier, the fact that these international, intercontinental, intergalactic belts, what they do is they give them the ranking in the top 15, and then they can push for the mandatories and all this other bollocks, and then sell fights by saying, well, this fight he's going to boost himself up the rankings, even though no one knows why this fucking useless twat is in the top 15. We're still going to fight him and then get boosted up to the top 5, or become the mandatory, and it's all just fucking it's just inbreeding between promoters and these alpha belt companies, and it's just them taking money off each other, giving money to each other, and little sneaky backhanders and shagging each other up the arse. It's just fucking disgusting. Really winds me up.
The other thing is, though, is that if you have a title, if you can manage your way to negotiating your way to getting a shot, even at an interim title, the thing is that makes you a marked man, right? So now some person, some fighter with good promotional backing, good financial backing and stuff, an Al Heyman fighter or something, he's going to want to make that guy a champion, quote unquote, and he's going to come looking for your title. And when they come looking for your title, a good example here is Andy Lee, right? Had that title. Quillen needed to get it back because he had to ditch it because of the whole Rock Nation bullshit and all that stuff. So he needed to get it back. So they paid Andy Lee $1 million to come over and ostensibly to drop his title, but Andy didn't drop it because he fought a good fight and he managed to draw, and now he's still hanging on to that title. But the point is that once you get one of those titles, the people with the money start coming looking for you, and you don't need to come looking for the money. They look for you once you have that strap. And so that's the reason why you say, well, why do they even care? There's all these titles, they're diluted. The meaning of them doesn't matter anymore. But it does matter, and when you have the strap, the people come looking for you rather than the other way around.
The problem is as well, it's the devaluing of national belts. So if the British and the European and the Commonwealth belts meant more, or in America, the NABA titles, if they meant more, then they wouldn't need all these belts. Andy hit the nail on the head by just saying quite a simple sentence earlier. He said, the IBO aren't one of the main four. I mean, the fact that we have four is already too much. I mean, we have the main four. Other sports don't have the main four. We've got the main four, and then we have all the hangers on as the IBO, the WBF, etc., WBU,
Commission.
Yeah, I mean, do you know, and again, because all Maltese Boxing Commission, so the Maltese Boxing Commission now, on the Roy Jones fight in Liverpool, I think there's 3 world title fights on that. WBF world title fights. And a guy is going to legitimately have a belt that says he's a WBF world champion. And it means absolutely nothing. And as much as, a lot of people, my opinions on Eddie Hearn has, in Britain at least, pushed this more than any other promoter. The idea of this regular champ, intercontinental, international, he has embraced that system. And there's, it does make it worse for the fans, worse for the sport. And also, for the fighters themselves, I mean, Scott Quigg knows he's a world-class fighter, but he knows he's not a world champion. And there's no reason why he shouldn't be a world champion. He should fight for a world title, but, he was gifted it. And it's not just him. There are obviously both sides of the Atlantic. They're gifting these belts. I mean, Chris Eubank fighting for an interim belt at that division, there was no cause for it. The regular belt holder was active. Why make an interim belt from nothing? It's just to make a little bit of money. And these sanctioning bodies as well, the promoters, if you ever see them on fight night, they can't stand them. The belts are expensive. The officials are expensive. They have to go to extra cost. The referees get paid more because they're a WBA or WBC sanctioned ref. I don't understand why the promoters, because they're the ones that have the power here. If the promoters just said, look, we're not going to use these belts, that'd be the end of it. It wouldn't be the fighters that had that power. But they all seem to embrace it. And you only get fighters after they've retired, like Darren Barker's done, and saying how much of a joke it is.
It's a sad day, as I says on the chat there, that when they've got WBC are introducing international titles, but they've got them in silver as well rather than gold. Next week we're bringing in fucking bronze and palladium titles. Next is a complete utter joke. Kurt, I think you're banging the money, mate. I think from now on we should just ban all discussion of their names. What do you think, guys?
Palladium title.
I'm telling you. The palladium title was
that was good shit. I wanna keep that one for the 3rd anniversary.
Oh, aye, we need to get working on that one. Well, we better get working on something else. We need to get moving on with the show. That being the case, good little undercard fight. 5 rounds it lasted. Hugo Reyes dropped Julio Ceja in I think it was the 3rd or 4th round. I think it was. Sure, I'm likely to see it was the 3rd round, but he got dropped out with a right hook, I think it was, and then...
Yeah, it's 3rd round, Jay. He was in trouble, wasn't he?
Yeah, I really thought, he should have held on, but that's probably the Mexican in him, but Reese really should have stepped on it in that 4th round. He seemed to kind of let Ceja get back into it, and Kurt, he paid the ultimate price eventually with that left hook. Really did change the game, and some people were actually kind of a wee bit disappointed with the stoppage. I thought the stoppage was fair, personally.
Yeah, I did. I think Ruiz, was a shame for him because he was in control for most of the fight, to be honest. I mean, the 3rd round, I felt he didn't have the killer instinct. He could have got Ceja out of there. He was hurt. He had him against the ropes, and if he'd pinned him against the ropes and just was throwing shots like Ceja did a few rounds later, I think he would have stopped him as well. But he just didn't have that killer instinct. And the difference when Ceja had his man hurt was totally different. He was just, wailing away, throwing shots. He was landing them as well. And when a guy's hands are down, he's taking shots and his head's being pushed back like that, the referee's always entitled to stop the fight, even if you say, well, the shots ain't that big or the guy could have carried on. I do think he could have carried on, but he didn't seem to process the stoppage, and his hands were down. He was taking shots. So, all in all, it was a great comeback from Saab because, I think I had him losing every round. He was dropped badly and hurt. Lucky to survive the third round. It just came out of the blue, to be honest. He looked too slow, I thought, and I thought that Ruiz looked like he was comfortable taking his power as well. Then out of the blue, he just landed that left hook, and it was a game changer. And it was a really good 5-round fight on the undercard.
I was really enjoying Ruiz. It was the first time I've seen him, and obviously scored the knockdown. And like Andy said, if he'd have put his foot down on the pedal, then he would have. I thought he could have got the job done. He was, significantly. I thought he looked quite a lot bigger than Sayar in the ring, and then Sayar lands the big bomb and game over. Great little fight.
The last time I've seen Ruiz fight, maybe even the only time I've seen him fight was when he lost to Koki Kameda, and I actually felt he maybe even shaded that fight by a point or two. Dave, you happy with that fight, mate? It certainly was a good appetizer for the main event.
Yeah, yes. At the first round or two, I was like, I wanted to care about the fight, I just couldn't because I'd never seen either of the two guys. It just seemed slow paced. Then finally, the first knockdown that made everything much more interesting. Both guys really got into it after that, and Seha proved he wanted it more ultimately. He was there to get he knew he needed the stoppage, and that's what he got. So props to him, and wouldn't mind seeing him again.
Alex, I think he called out Santa Cruz next. Santa Cruz is saying he's staying at 126. I don't really see any need for a McDonald rematch if McDonald goes up to 122 after his next fight against Kameda. I'm just trying to think. Do you think Ruiz showed enough to deserve a rematch? I mean, Kurt had him practically having a shutout until the time of the stoppage.
Yeah, it seems, what would it accomplish, a rematch in that fight? I mean, he got knocked out. He was winning the fight, but he got knocked out. I don't think it was a significant or meaningful enough fight to warrant a rematch for either guys. Not as if it was for like a world title fight, or it was completely amazing. It was good while it lasted, and Ruiz he had the number on him. I think that he knew how to control him. He knew that Seha was just trying to get him with that left hook constantly all night. He was trying to, the distance and the reach advantage certainly was, almost entirely in Ruiz's favour throughout the entire fight until he just got caught, and that was it. He got caught and he got up, and then he just got pummeled, and I don't think there's any real call for a rematch for that. Both guys easily go on to do something else. I don't know about the McDonald rematch personally. It's good to see that this just enhances McDonald's legacy a little bit, and McDonald, we've been a bit of a supporter of his ever since the Kameda fight, I suppose. The way he got mistreated after that and during that fight, really underappreciated. He's really shown himself to be a quality class fighter, and like I just said, the Seha win just looks even more spectacular on his record now. So it'll be interesting to see what Seha does. Obviously, if he goes on and wins a title himself, and it just makes Jamie look even better, then maybe it becomes more relevant to have a rematch between those two guys in the future, especially if that they're both at the same division in a couple of months. But who knows? Yeah,
I mean, it was for an interim title, so it's the one that Santa Cruz apparently holds at Super Bantamweight, which he's likely to vacate now. So I'm assuming he'll probably get upgraded, or he'll probably have a box off where I think Ruiz was the number one contender. So there's some guy out of China I think's ranked number 2, I believe. So I really don't know if we're going to make that fight. I really don't know. But moving on, Shane Mosley against Ricardo Mayorgga. Now, I think this fight started just roughly around about the later rounds of the Santa Cruz Mahrez fight, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. I've seen the stoppage, and I've seen Mayorgga doing his cock thrusting, but other than that, I really think the whole fight was a setup, I think, in my personal opinion. Okay, Mosley maybe landed a body shot, but I don't think it was sufficient enough for him to kind of basically stay on his knees like that. If you're hit by a body shot, you kind of like basically point to the body, or you're protecting it. I never saw any of that from Mayorgga. Now, who actually watched this utter shitfest? Now, I imagine Paul did.
Yeah, no, I sat through that. I'd actually quite enjoyed the promotion, actually, in a kind of, like you can't stop looking at a car crash on a motorway kind of way. It was there was a lot of build up to it, and Shane had done his best to market the fight, but it was awful. It was really poor. I mean, Mayorgga, rocked up a good 25 pounds heavier than Mosley. I mean, he was huge in the ring. I mean, officially he weighed in, I was supposed to be at 160 pounds. I reckon he must have been over 180 on the night. And he was just so slow, couldn't put punches together. And I think, Mosley got the win. They got the win, and he dominated the fight. But even then, I think we were saying off air that when fighters are past the prime, you always look to see what they've lost. Sometimes they lose all their speed but retain their power or whatever. But Mosley sort of lost a bit of everything, and it was poor. And for anyone in America that shelled out between $50 and $60 for that on a pay-per-view when they had Santa Cruz Mahrez for free on ESPN, I mean, they must be kicking themselves. But I mean, Mosley still carries that name, and there will be quite a few light middleweights and middleweights who will fancy that fight. But he's just, he's 43 years old now. I mean, he's not Bernard Hopkins. He was struggling a few years back, and but he's just...
It's because he's sugarless now, mate. He's sugarless now. He isn't popping the pills or taking injections anymore.
Well, that's it. We're probably seeing him in his more natural state, shall we say. But the problem is, like I said, it's been years since his last good win. He's had some very poor performances, and if it wasn't for the big personality that he seems to have grown overnight on Twitter, but he comes out after the fight, in the interview straight after the fight, he was saying to the guy in the ring that he wants Mayweather, he wants Pacquiao, and I mean, there's deluded and there's stupid, and he comes across as both. And Ricardo Mayorgga, I mean, he always was a bit of a comedy character. He had, in his early days, he had a bit of pop about him, but now there is nothing there. If anyone needs to retire off the back of that fight, it's not necessarily the 43-year-old. It's Mayorgga, because he just didn't give a shit, showed up way overweight, undertrained. The whole fight week was staged. I do believe the knockout was a knockout. I just don't think Mayorgga wanted to fight into the 7th round. I think it was as simple as that. I think he took his money, and he was quite happy with his night's work. And it was these sort of exhibition fights. I mean, I don't mind them, but not when people are, especially in America, are expected to start that much money. And Box Nation subscribers, you've helped pay for that.
It was terrible from start to finish, and Mayorgga was rocked to his boots after about 15 seconds. Mosley threw a nice looking jab, and he wasn't staggering about or anything, but he was certainly stopped in his tracks. It just looked a mess, Mayorgga, and it was one of the biggest betting swings I've seen probably this year. The opening price on a Mosley KO was 2-1, lasted 14 minutes. That price did, and it went off at 8-11 last night. So we've gone from 2-1 to 8-11 about a Mosley KO. That's a big swing, no matter the size of the fight. And like Mosley, he's, like you say, he seems to have grown his personality. He promoted that show himself last night on, is it Go Box or whatever the company's called? It's just, I mean, you'd have thought that yes, they are going, head to head with a genuine, prime fight that's free on another channel, not very far away. You'd have thought that they'd have been able to, do it so at least it didn't clash, but it did. They were still going on. I think it was the first 3 or 4 rounds of the Mahrez fight, clashed with the ending of Mosley's. That's poor. But yeah, Mosley's still got the name, and Bernard Hopkins, as amazing as he has been, he's sent a bit. He's gave a bit of a dangerous precedent, really, because people like Mosley think that they can do a Hopkins, and Hopkins is a freak. And not many people will be able to follow that and fight into the nearly 50 years old. But the one positive thing you can say about Mosley, he does turn up in shape, like physically decent shape. So, but these idiots on Twitter last night saying get him over for Kell Brook. No, thank you. We'll come on to Mr. Brook later.
I don't think you will ever see Mosley make 147 again. I really don't doubt it.
No, I think he was about 158 last night. I think.
Yeah, Mayorgga was way heavier than that as well.
Mayorgga was like 160 something.
You're hardcore when guys like Steve Wells has actually watched the whole show on Box Nation. Steve, what was more tragic, mate? The fight itself, the fact that it was on pay-per-view in America, or the actual fake-ass set-up cries of sexual harassment?
I think it was a bit of everything, really.
Tragic, tragic.
Yeah, there was nobody really came out of this with any great credit, but actually Adam made an excellent point there with the Bernard Hopkins thing, and I've seen this precedent set by Hopkins, and a lot of fighters now, whenever they're going on too long, they're boxing past their peak, a lot of them are saying, well, look at Bernard Hopkins, he's still fighting at 50, and they're using Hopkins as this measuring stick, even though he is an anomaly, he's the one-off, and they're still fighting off the back of this. So Adam makes an excellent point there. I just commend him on that. But I mean, this was the main event, putting aside the undercard, which was, I mean, there was a guy Diaz I think was on it, and then Maureen Shea was fighting in a 10-rounder. But the main event was just a glorified sparring show. Really, it was just an exhibition. And Mayorgga, he came in poor shape, but we've seen this through the years, even when he was at his peak, eating pizza on the scale, smoking, acting the clown. But this time, when it came to the business end, he had nothing to offer. In the past, whenever he's done this tongue out sort of hit me thing, the thrusting and the dancing, when he did it against
Tito,
when he did it. Well, when he did it against Tito, and when he did it against Vernon Forrest, when he did it against Six Heads Lewis, he had something to offer behind it. It was part of the act. But on Saturday night, it was the act. In that fight, he had nothing tangible to give back apart from that. I mean, I don't know what Spanish is for man boobs, but he was just in shocking condition. Saying that for Mosley, he should give it up as well. I think he's had his day. He's one of these guys who's going to go on too long. I can see him fighting in Europe the way Roy Jones has done. But it's time for him to pack it in. And I was trying to think about Mosley, actually. You want to bet his newfound personality? I'm trying to think back to the 90s, whenever he was boxing the likes of De La Hoya, Adrian Stone, Philip Holliday, all these guys. Was he a bit of a personality?
No,
or was this...
He was born.
He wasn't, was he?
He's a nice guy. He's always been known as a nice guy boxing. I mean, Mosley, I don't believe it. I still don't believe it's him running the Twitter. I've heard some people saying it's his new girlfriend running it, apparently, so I don't know. It just seems odd with who he is as a person if you watched all his interviews in the past. I mean, I don't think Shane is stupid at all. I think this is a simple case of having to fight on for money. That's the simple fact. He had a bad divorce. He had to sell I think he had to give all his world titles up, and you know, he's having to face the embarrassment and the humiliation of that. It's not. I don't think it's a case of looking at Hopkins and thinking, "Oh, he can do it, I can do it." It's just the simple fact is, I need money, I need to fight. It's the only thing I know how to do. And you know, he knew when he lost to Canelo, when he lost every round, you know, he was terrible. He had to go to Australia, have the humiliation of getting beaten up by Anthony Mundine. You know, I think as long as he sticks to these type of fights, it's fine. I mean, Mayorgga, he's not going to get hurt. I wouldn't rule out a Margarito rematch happening. Margarito's coming back. It's another freak show that people will be interested in, and
it's almost like a senior tour.
Yeah, and it's like Roy Jones going around fighting guys who, you know, they're not going to really hurt him. He gets fans to still take a look at a legend in action, even though it's obviously years past their best. And same with Mosley. If Mosley could go to Europe, and maybe he could still do the same thing. But it's a sad state because he's been in so many big fights. He's had a great career, and he's fought, if you look at his resume, he's fought absolutely everybody there is to fight. And now he's having to fight, you know, these type of fights just to make a living, when he should be having his feet up now and enjoying his life.
I was still surprised. I was looking at the records last week, Mosley, that he got a Mayweather fight on the back of a Sergio Mora draw. That was like, I can't even describe that.
The Pacquiao
fight.
He fought Mayweather directly after Margarito. He fought Mora after Mayweather.
And then, so he drew with Mora, then fought Pacquiao. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. A serious question. I want to know what's the age difference between Mosley's oldest son and Mosley's current girlfriend, please.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, actually. See, if you look at his ex-wife, she actually looks like early 20s, actually. I mean, that's just because she's maybe the photograph angle or the makeup or whatever and stuff. But I'll tell you one thing.
Big surgery.
She took everything just practically off him, by the way. And I mean, fucking, even his bollocks, I think, at one point.
She's Asian, too. Asian women often look younger. But that bitch, I mean, she's the definition of
Dave, don't give a fucking about racial relations, man. You speak the truth, mate. On you go.
Chang still looks 12.
She is the definition of gold digger, you know. I mean, take his belts. This guy earned those things fighting in the ring, taking the blows. I think if that bitch wants half of everything, she gets half the brain damage, half the busted nose, half the freaking slurred speech. Come on, share the wealth here.
Shane just don't believe in prenup. He believed in true love, and he just failed miserably for him. It's sad to see it the way it's gone, but you know, just hopefully that he will pack it in after. He said he's going to fight again in November, I believe. And to be fair to him, he really did a good job of promoting that fight. He got people interested. He got people talking about it. He used social media. You know, I think he showed other promoters social media is such a valuable tool. I mean, we spoke about Eddie Hearn, how he's used it as well, and Shane Mosley did a great job at that, and it's just hard to see how long is he going to keep fighting. He's not going to get that massive payday that he wants, but he can do a Roy Jones and just pick up these odd little fights here and there. I think he's happy to do that, and he's talked about he's sparring Sean Porter and a few of the younger guys. He can do that, and I don't know. It's just sad to see, really.
He was over in London. He was over in London sparring Frampton recently.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that he will go the Roy Jones retirement route, and I think that's the new thing now. These sort of faded names are going to go off around Europe, maybe to the UK, Australia, whatever, and play off their name and earn a few quid. And fair play to them. But it does frustrate me a little bit because you would have liked to have seen them travel in their prime. I mean, imagine if Jones had travelled in his prime and gone and ended the sort of Michalczewski question in Germany. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind Jones would have beaten him, but it would have been nice to have at least seen these things settled. Now, I know that people could say, oh, well, they should have gone to him, blah, 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 but if he's so willing to travel now, it's a shame they didn't do it in their prime. Obviously, I know the reasons why, but, it would have been nice.
What I want to know as well, Adam, as soon as you asked the question about the girlfriend, is what acting school has she been going to?
Well, I mean, she wrote the script, she directed it, and she played a starring role. So,
well, I'll tell you another thing. She probably needs to go and meet a baseball player and knows how to fucking pitch a ball properly, because that thing that she threw at him was more slightly pathetic, like. And then to give an interview afterwards, Shane Mosley acting all like biscuit face and that stern, stone look about him and stuff, and she's sitting there fucking Botox lips, trouting like a pout and stuff like that, or pouting like it's just fucking disgraceful. I mean, and it's even egg it on to keep it going, saying it was sexual assault, sexual harassment and stuff, and then Mayorgga comes out and says, oh, it was all a setup. Of course it was a fucking setup. You don't see the bitch do it.
I think her ass right there for his hand.
I mean, she's standing literally like inches from him, right? She drops something. She literally turns her back to him. She bends over, presents her arse 2 inches from him, right? What does she expect if it's been set up? Of course, I mean, it gave out that wee fake scream as well afterwards.
The funniest
Ricardo didn't really play the game, did he?
No.
Yeah, but after all the hatred that they had, apparently in the build-up, Mosley saying he's going to destroy him, he's going to end his career, he's going to make him never fight again. And as soon as the bell went for the first round, Mosley went straight over to him and touched gloves with him. So you could just tell straight away, it's all nonsense.
Yeah, but Mayorgga, it looked a setup, but at least he didn't even wait like 10 minutes until he said, oh yeah, it was a setup. He didn't play the game at all.
I think he came back and says it's pay-per-view in America, but it's free to air back home, so this was some sort of a PBC type thing in was it Nicaragua or something like that. Yeah, it was pretty pathetic though.
On one hand, you'd like to see Shane find some success as an independent promoter, because I like that he was successful somewhat last night, and he's completely new to this, and you want to see him have some financial success after his hard career. But if he could do it without actually getting in there himself, I think we'd all be a lot happier. I mean, no one wants to see him, and no one wants to see Mayorgga in there anymore. It's just sad.
Yep.
What about guiding his son the way Jack guided him, or is the son even fighting?
Yeah, well, the apple didn't fall far from the tree with that one, so he got popped for drugs recently.
Oh, did it? Yeah.
Well, he did fall far from the tree because his son sucks.
ADHD.
I mean, his son isn't that good, and maybe his son takes more after Jin Mosley, the gold digger, because he's already got a pro loss. He's never fought anybody good.
Kurt, is that true, mate? What you just posted up there? Shane apparently turned in 13 million to face Oscar for a third fight, then got schooled off Winky for 4 million.
He turned down. Oscar wanted the third fight because obviously he lost to him, and he wanted parity with Oscar, which was never going to happen at the time. He turned down 30 million. Then he was going to fight Mayorgga, I think, for 7 or 8 million, and Mayorgga, I think, got beat by, was it Corey Spinks, I think it was?
Yeah, he lost to Corey Spinks.
So then Mosley, being, what fighters should do, decided to take on Winky Wright when no one wanted to go near Winky Wright. I mean, he got paid 4 million, but it's still a massive come down from the original 13 million that he would have got, and probably would have beat Oscar again, or at least be close. He turned,
Oscar,
we're talking about Sugar Shane here, mate. No Sugarless Shane we're talking about. This is Sugar Shane.
But he went to fight Winky for, only 4 million, which was obviously a really hard style, and no one wanted to fight him, and he was, badly beaten in that fight. Yeah, but it's just, he's made a few mistakes in the past, obviously.
Yeah, getting married was one of them. Paul, Carpet's asking, aka Paul Edwards, is Kell Brook's career going anywhere, or is Hearn just waiting for the can payday?
I don't think he's going anywhere fast quickly, but I think he's just sort of sitting quite still with what he's got, and I think he knows there are fights that can be made over here that aren't all that exciting or big, but he'll keep ticking himself over. It feels like he's been at world level forever. It does feel like that, but he hasn't really. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that he was fighting for his first world title or his only world title against Sean Porter. He's had a couple of defences. We were used to in this country having guys like Ricky Hatton and Joe Calzaghe make multiple defences of belts before looking to unify or before looking to move abroad. And I think that's pretty much what we've got with Kell Brook at the minute. If he does fight in October and December, as Eddie Hearn has said, he'll have fought 4 times this year against, limited opposition, but 2 mandatories potentially. And he's just ticking over. He's waiting until the right opportunity for the big fight. I don't believe that Eddie Hearn has the ability to pull in a top welterweight over to the UK. I just don't think he can do that. I think at some point they're going to just have to admit defeat and send Kell Brook over to America, and where he'll do pretty well. I think it's got to that point now where we can't expect any sort of name. If we couldn't get Brandon Rios, you're not going to get Tim Bradley, you're not going to get Keith Thurman, etc. You're going to have to wait to send him the other way.
There's few things that are annoying me more at the moment in boxing than this Kell Brook situation. Fighting 4 times a year or fighting on a so-called stacked card is not a substitute for fighting shit, and that's what we're going to get this year if this so-called plan to fight Chavez and Bizier within the next 4 months. It's no way near good enough. It's no way near good enough. I know that he had an incident after winning the world title, but again, we can't be using that as an excuse either. The American market, including Bradley as well to a certain extent, but normally the Heyman side of the American market means that it's highly unlikely to get one of the big names over here. So you've got to pack your bag and pack your gloves and head yourself over to Vegas or California again. Eddie Hearn promised that he was going to announce Kell Brook's opponent on the 17th of July at the Manchester show. Still waiting.
Next question. Carl Stones is asking, who will go to with this one? Kurt. Will Joe Gallagher have a world champion before Kim Jong-il invades the USA?
Fuck's sake.
Kim Jong-il is dead.
Well, that's what he's got at the end of it.
I was going to say, you mean Kim Jong-un? Or Cal just doesn't know.
Look, am I going to get a fucking lecture here about fucking how you pronounce fucking foreign names?
I'll just be
it's
racist and say they all sound the same to me. But
it's not your fault, Andy. It's just Cal didn't spend much time at school. So yeah, Kim Jong-un is alive. Kim Jong-il is very much dead.
For all we know, Kim Jong-il could still be alive for all we know.
Cal, did you hear that, mate? Get your foreign fucking policy sorted out, mate.
He's like, are you sure that this Carl isn't the alias of Scott Quigg?
Maybe it's North Korea who's taken the pod down.
Could be. They have the power. They've done a lot.
They don't need that much power to take it down.
Sorry, Kurt, on you go, mate. If you want to answer.
I can't even remember what it was now. Joe Gallagher, world champion. In all seriousness, I think he gets a bit of a hard time. I mean, he's done a good job with the guys he's had, to be fair to him. He went on that long unbeaten streak, didn't he, for a while, and I know if you don't want to say he ain't got a real world champion in Scott Quigg and whatnot, but I think he's done well with the group of lads he's got, and they all seem to like and respect him. And I think he gets a bit of a hard time. I know we like to joke about him and stuff, but I think he does a decent job.
Just as a reminder to all the listeners, Joe Gallagher is a trainer, not a matchmaker.
Allegedly, but he's got a lot of say in who his fighters face. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, well,
I know that for a fact.
Yeah,
Joe Gallagher fighters don't fight unless Joe Gallagher says gives it the okay.
Well,
Eddie Hearn has to ask Joe Gallagher, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? So, but then again, he's looking after his fighters' interests. So that's what they're there to do. Trainers and managers are there to protect their fighter as much as anything else. So if they decide they don't want their guy in fights, I mean, it's not like Joe Gallagher has actively avoided several fights, you probably will just say, no, I'd rather this, or no, he's not ready. And I think that's what a good trainer's meant to do, I suppose.
Next question. Really? This Bill Granger saying, is McDonald ducking Haskins, saying it's not a big enough fight? What? Nah. It's no matter. I'm going to answer
Who's
that
ducking
one.
Haskins?
McDonald.
Nah, I don't think
I
McDonald is.
think that's a piss take.
Well, that wouldn't be such a bad fight. I mean, McDonald's come a long way if you think about it. I mean, he was losing to Andy Bell on Sky a few years ago. He's just another example of the unbeaten record syndrome. If you know, you can improve, you can get better if you put the hard work in. McDonald's got right to the top, and he's done really well. So, yeah,
I think the point being to the question, Haskins probably does deserve a fight of that standard, i.e. Jamie McDonald again.
Well, he's seen everybody else he's beaten getting shots ahead of him, hasn't he? So
Yeah.
from a personal point of view, I'd like to see Haskins get some kind of recognition. But then his style doesn't always cross over with the most fan friendly of boxing matches. Unfortunately, although he has been a lot better recently.
Next question. Joey O. Dave. Question for you guys. Great fight between Santa Cruz and Mahrez. If that was under Hearn and Sky in the UK, would that have been pay-per-view? Probably the wrong question to ask you, actually. Adam, what are you with that one, mate?
Probably, yeah. I mean, like, as I keep saying, they could put Andy Morris. They could put anyone on top of a bill, and if he can stack it, he can pay-per-view it.
Andy Morris? There's a name.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to go.
I remember him.
Yeah,
what was that name again?
Andy Morris?
Yeah.
Oh, aye.
Yeah,
the old Satanta days?
Yeah, it was a bit of a slip up there, sorry.
Andy Patterson and, put them together. Alex Morris, what'd you get? Andy Morris?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Alex Morris against Andy Patterson, but yeah, it went wrong.
Second part of that question, I'll probably go to you with this, Dave, seeing as you want to do a wee bit of shitting on the PBC, but we've actually got a TV station over here called ITV, and Joey's asking, I think PBC on ITV will happen once Heyman gets a good group of UK fighters. Would you welcome this? So here's your chance, mate.
Well, I mean, that sounds like it's more to do with ITV than PBC, and I think it sounds like a good thing, being that Box Nation is so exclusive to boxing and doesn't really draw in any new fans, just pleases the hardcores, and in fact doesn't often please them because it puts on so much crap. But in the vein of PBC shitting, I mean, just look at the schedule we've got for the next month. Now, all credit to Saturday's card. It was a good card. You had a good undercard fight, which turned out to be better than I thought it would be, and you had a really fun main event, which was against two good fighters fighting each other. Not the best fighting the best, as Teddy Atlas said, but it's close. But next week we got Durrell versus Marco Antonio Rubio. Boring. McDonald Kameda is on the undercard of that, even though that's actually a better fight. That's a trend we see the following Tuesday with the Trout and Lara on the same card. Trout is the main event. Lara is on the undercard. Lara, the guy who schooled Trout, both of them fighting nobodies. Then you get Stevenson versus Carpensi, the Cleverly victim. Terrible, horrific, joke. Quillen versus Zarafa the next week. Horrific.
But no mention for Bundridge against Charlo, no?
Yeah, that's on that undercard. I mean, I guess it's finally their way to get Charlo a title, but it's pretty poor. At least it is an undercard fight. But, I mean, even that is better than Quillen Zarafa. Quillen Zarafa is one of those fights, that's like Danny Garcia versus, who was that lightweight they put him in? I can't even remember his name. Rod Salka. Yeah, it's like Rod Salka.
Lightning Rod.
Yeah, these are like Rod Salka level fights here. And then you got, after that,
Sammy Vasquez against someone.
Guerrero Truax. Oh, that's great.
A lot of these fights are just pure AIDS, aren't they? They're just terrible.
Figueroa versus DeMarco. Maybe a few years ago that might have been fun, but DeMarco's retired, basically, isn't he? He's well past it. Wilder Duhaupas. We talked about that last week. Not a great fight at all. And
Fanfara Cleverly, but a decent fight though.
Fanfara Cleverly, yeah, that's not till October 16th. We have about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 PBC cards on various networks, and not until Fanfara Cleverly do we have like a decent scrap. That's 9 cards of shit.
That's the thing. He's got such a massive stable, such a huge influence. But these people that are so happy that they're getting boxing on free TV, but how can you be happy with constant shit? I mean, that's all it is. It's just turd after turd after turd. Why can't he put on better fights? We're not saying every fight needs to be the best against the best. It's never going to happen. But it just the sympathisers who make every excuse for Heyman. One minute they're saying, he can't force these guys to fight, but then he can make Quillen turn down 1.4 million to face someone, and he'll probably do the same with Wilder when he has to fight Povetkin. He can make whatever fight he wants within his own stable. We all know that, and half of these fights, I mean, they're just absolute jokes. And how many people who maybe tune into boxing for the first time, or maybe they've fallen out of love with the sport they're watching, how many people are going to tune in to Trout against Hernandez and go, wow, that's me, a boxing fan for the next 50 years? That's going to make you never watch boxing, never speak about boxing ever again. It's just shite.
That Wilder fight's that bad that can't even tell you the opponent's name, and I certainly wouldn't know him if he walked in my front room right now. I ain't even bothered searching how good he is. I don't know who it is.
He's French, so anything he's going to be walking into is doing the fucking tunnel, running back to France. The Germans just fucking start approaching again.
Well, this weekend it's proof that they can do so much better. I mean, look what they did. They filled up the Staples Center. They set a record crowd.
13,000.
The atmosphere was fantastic. Everybody was into it. It was a great show. I mean, why can't they do that more than once in a blue moon? Like, they put on all this shit, and like, isn't it pretty obvious which one is more pleasing to the fans? Which one's going to sell better? Which one is going to generate interest in your product?
Right, I've got a question coming here from the Facebook page from Wes Shaw. His question for tonight's pod: how does B-Hop sit in the current super middleweight division? Ward, Chunov, Buglione, DeGale, Jack Groves and Abraham, all potential title opponents. Could be some fun matches. Who, what, where, when and how makes sense for the executioner. Have a great show, thanks. Personally, I think the easiest fight there would be Abraham. And that would be for a title anyway, at least.
You wouldn't. I mean, he loses to Ward in what would be an absolute horrific fight, but all the others, even if you think DeGale and Groves beat him, I mean, you can't rule him out against those. And the rest of the guys, I think he beats. I mean, Abraham's absolutely shot. I mean, even though Hopkins is a lot older than him, I think he's got a lot more left, to be honest. And Abraham's just got a terrible style. He won't beat Hopkins. He's not going to hurt him. He's not going to outwork him, and that's. Someone who fights so slow as he does, that's just perfect for Hopkins to just outwork him and win a title. I mean, that's the title he's going after, and I can see why. But I think DeGale, you'd expect DeGale to get past him, but it might be tough at times. But I think Ward's the one guy you'd say, yeah, you'll beat him.
Paul, question here from Danny Robson: which current fighter would you like to see knocked out the most? His is Peter Quillen.
Oh, there's a few.
I bet I tell you, listen, just judging by the comments on Twitter, I think quite a few would like to see you knocked out, mate.
I think they would, yeah.
Paul wants to see Roy Jones knocked out, apparently.
Yeah,
you going to the fight, mate?
Still up in the air on that one. I'm not sure I'd make it out there alive, to be fair. I'm a Mark's man in the Northwest.
They might get you on the show. Be careful. It's Malta Boxing Commission. You could end up on the undercard if you're not careful.
Is it Liverpool?
He'll be fighting Roy.
Is it Liverpool?
Matt Scriven.
I'll be in the corner of some Latvian holding his towel, probably getting paid 20 quid.
Is it Liverpool tonight?
Yeah, Liverpool, September the 12th.
The
Aintree. The Aintree racecourse. Tickets are still available to see the living legend Roy Jones fight against someone you don't know and no one knows. But
listen, Paul, Tony Moran, to be fair to him, was an exciting fighter in his day. He
when
was
his day, Steve?
He had some decent cruiserweight
When was his day, Steve?
back in Sky.
Is Steve after a press pass?
I know he has a loss to Chris P. Bacon on his record. We'll overlook that. He was an exciting fight. I can't for the life of me remember who he fought. Did he fight Neil Simpson from Coventry the once? But he was exciting on the Sky undercards. I don't know why I made that point, but
That
Anyway.
was fairly desperate plea. No, in the serious answer to the question, no, I hope Roy Jones doesn't get knocked out. Although I would be able to do the biggest "I told you so" and be such a nose on Facebook and Twitter afterwards. But no, the fighter who I'd like to see most get knocked out, and I am a massive fan of his in terms of what he does in the ring. He's totally changed the game. But Floyd Mayweather, if someone can knock out Floyd Mayweather, it opens boxing up in a massive way. And to do a WWE reference that Kurt will enjoy, it's like when Bret Hitman Hart left and they had to shaft him over so Shawn Michaels beat him and he didn't want to give up the belt. Somebody needs to beat Floyd Mayweather before he retires. Because if he goes off into the sunset undefeated, it does leave a bit of a void. I think someone has got to beat this guy who, for all his success and all his money and all his power, is generally disliked by a large majority of people. And we need a good guy to come and beat him.
Well, to be honest, it's not going to be the now bread and water fed fucking Andre Berto, not the one that's juiced up with HGH and stuff, you know.
If Berto were to win, like I think the speed at which perceptions of everybody in boxing would change on him would like literally change the rotation of the earth.
Can you imagine the Floyd stands if he gets knocked out?
Yeah.
Kurt, could you imagine like a Proud, for instance, what he would be like?
He'd be hanging from a rope.
They'll just say Ray Robinson lost 19 times.
The fucking Golden Gate Bridge will fucking take on the actual role of a diving board.
The reverberations would even reach Donnie up, circling the earth wherever he is.
Donnie's in Mars just now, isn't he? Fucking hell. Right, I've got a kind of long-winded question here from Rory Paddock. Now, I'll try and pick up whatever you can out of this and just chime in with it. With Frampton unlikely to fight Rigo or Quigg anytime soon, how likely is he to follow Santa Cruz's footsteps and move up? Also, if he fought fellow Heyman fighter Lee Selby, despite the Hearn factor, who would each of the team pick? Who's given the better acting masterclass? Floyd for saying Berto deserves his shot, and every time he says he won't fight on to number 50, or the combined stupidity of Mosley, Mayorgga, and Mosley's idiotic yet brilliantly arse girlfriend?
That was like 3 questions in one, right?
Yeah.
That was like a rock hard
Well,
question.
on the Frampton thing, I think he should drag his ass to Super Bantam as much as he can, because I think the featherweights will be a bit too big for him. A case in point, Selby. Selby is an absolute monster for the weight. I mean, the size difference on the night would be huge. I hope Frampton doesn't go the Santa Cruz route, but I've said before that there's a strong possibility he might. Where he's going to fight next, I don't know. There is talk of him coming home and then maybe going back out to America and then fighting Quigg next summer, but we'll wait and see. But, I mean, I wouldn't be keen to put him anywhere near Lee Selby anytime soon, to be honest.
Selby would twat him about, like Kell Brook did Frankie Gavin.
Is that your Tony Bellew, Dave?
That sounded paedophile, sinister.
Twat him about. Yeah. To be fair, I mean, I'm starting to fall for the hype. I watched the episode of All Access and I came away from it thinking, you know, Floyd might retire at this fight. You know, maybe he is telling the truth. He's showing videos of him sparring that he never did before. You know, he's being a lot more open because he knows he's in with a guy who can't beat him. But maybe he is willing to give it up. I'm sure he won't, but you know, maybe he is actually going to stick to his word and walk away.
Marcus Bellinger's asking the question, what's more credible, a WBA world title or the Mosley Mayorgga fight?
Mosley Mayorgga all day. I mean, that was at least it was 2 guys in there hitting each other.
The WBA missed a trick. It's a shame they couldn't have got a belt on the line there.
And that is all we can hope for. And 2 guys hitting each other. That's pretty much the most that we can hope for on a fight.
Next question. Where is it? I just lost the next question. There it's there. Sam ATR's asking, lately there's been talk of Thurman against Maidana. How would the fight go? I would personally take Thurman on points, provided that Maidana can actually get down to a safe weight. What about yourself, Dave?
I don't know. After Colazzo, I hate to say this because I still really like Thurman, but I've had to jump off the bandwagon. I'm hoping that he can pull me back on, but there's just been too many like little chinks in the armor where it looks like he might be exposable here, and Yeah, I mean, I still like the guy, and I wish him the most success, but I think Maidana might expose him some of his vulnerabilities. It would be a shootout, and Thurman would have a great chance to win it by a knockout as well. And maybe you do have to favor Thurman because he's the younger, fresher guy. Still is very skilled, but I mean, I don't look at him as the next big thing anymore.
I think you got to question how much hunger has Maidana got left. I mean, he's after the big fights. Maidana's had them, and now you just think, is he happy with that? I mean, if you remember him in the All Access show, he's not a boxing fan. He lives a simple life, to be honest. He's made quite a few million over his last few fights, and does he even want to come back? And maybe he might get pushed into this fight, but is the hunger going to be there? That's the thing, and I'm not too sure.
Even in the second Floyd fight, I mean, Maidana didn't look like he gave a shit at all.
No, he didn't really. No, he didn't. He was joking and laughing at the end, and this, I mean, he's made so much money. But yeah, if it was Maidana before the Floyd fight, or of that kind of intensity, then great fight, and he'd give Thurman all he could handle, even, and that would show us a lot about Thurman, I think.
Next question, see if I can find it. I've got that one. Oh, this one from Rocco. Fucking hell. Following last night's Mexifest, let's have your favourite Mexican fighter that you've seen, not live, obviously, just not some cunt from 1960. So, favourite Mexican fighter with the best chin, best resume, one you hate the most underrated, overrated, best fight involving a Mexican fighter that you've seen.
God.
Cheers, Rocco.
I suppose if you're talking about one of the most recent classics, you probably need to see Margarito against Cotto. Just simple fact is how he turned the tables in that fight after getting outboxed for about 4 or 5 rounds.
Barrera Morales won, my favourite fight of all time.
Morales. That's what I was going to say. And Marco Pereira is my favourite Mexican ever.
Well, what about say best performance? Probably say Barrera against Naz. I mean, that's just one way to kind of deal with like a cocky guy like that,
Yeah, that was brilliant, wasn't it?
Lovely.
I think Manuel Marquez absolutely demolishing Manny Pacquiao. I think it's got to be up there in terms of a fight with a Mexican. I mean, I've seen Barrera live, but only the faded one that fought Amir Khan, and he's my favourite Mexican fighter. I think then in terms of his respect around the world, like I said, a lot of fans were cheering him, and he had a huge following there. So Barrera for my favourite, but best Mexican performance certainly, because I won't talk about fights that happened in black and white TV days, but for me the absolute demolition of Manny Pacquiao stands way ahead for me in terms of a 21st century performance by a Mexican.
You go Orlando Salido against Juan Manuel Lopez.
I was going to say
those 2 fights were good.
Orlando Salido against Juan Manuel Marquez, because I saw that when I was at that one live. I think he was
first fight Marquez won that quite widely, I remember rightly.
Which one, the Marquez Salido?
Yeah.
Did they fight twice? I don't know.
Oh, sorry, they fought once. Was it one of the Joe Mayor undercards?
It was on the Hopkins De La Hoya undercard in Vegas. I happened to be at that one, and I remember the fight was on it wasn't the best fight in the world, but Marquez is such a technician. It was just a pleasure to sort of be there and see him in action. He's a very, very good fighter.
Best chin, probably Chavez Senior. I mean, Ortiz had a good chin till later on in his career. Carlos Ortiz.
Your boy Campas, he took some beatings, right? Yeah, is he still fighting?
Still fighting, mate. I mean, no, wait a minute here. Let's put this into perspective. The guy that Chavez fought in his last fight, that guy lost or won a majority decision victory against Campas. Yeah, he won a majority decision victory. That's who it was.
Campas was. I remember he fought John Duddy, and he was in New York. He gave Duddy. It was an absolutely brilliant fight. He fought Matthew Macklin in Dublin in about 2006, and he was ancient then. I remember he was fighting Vargas. He must be nearly 50.
He's fucking well over 100 fights anyway.
Antonio Margarito looked like he could take shots from heavyweights and stand there and laugh.
Aye, Pacquiao being one of them. I mean, obviously he's not a heavyweight, but he got the shit kicked right out of him in every which way but loose, and he still kept coming.
Does Fernando Vargas count? No, he wasn't.
No, he's Mexican American. Does that count?
Yeah, he was one of my favourite fighters. Vargas, for whatever reason, I don't know, but
he could have been much better. I feel like
I really liked him. Raul Marquez, I suppose he's American-Mexican as well, not really.
No one mentioned the great Julio Cesar Chavez.
You forgot Rafael Marquez against Israel Vasquez.
Oh, brilliant. My favourite trilogy.
Don't forget Eric Morales too, the other half of the Barrera rivalry there. I mean, he's had some great fights in his own right.
I mean, I always remember the Morales. I forget what fight it was against Garcia, but Garcia tried to kind of get him a 3-punch combo and he missed it. And even though he was getting his arse handed to him at the time because he's short and he's over his best fighting weight, Morales actually mocked him as he just kind of like threw kind of silly fucking punches at him and stuff like that. Just basically saying, "You can't throw for shit, mate." And then
that was the first fight, and I thought that he was actually winning the first fight. Convincing.
Do you remember when he fought Maidana as well? Going in, people thought he'd get killed, and he put up he showed that what greatness. There was still some part of the old Morales still there.
I remember his eye getting badly swollen in the first round there.
Don't forget Manuel Medina as well. Andy came over and took Scott Harrison's WBO title. I think Harrison won the rematch.
Yep, Scott Harrison. I remember that fight. I'm trying to think of other ones actually, just off the top of my head. So I need to think. Oh, about what does he call him? Carbajal against that flyweight
Gonzalez.
That's the one.
First $1 million flyweight.
Light flyweight or flyweight fight, I think it was. It was a great fight, that.
Another Gonzalez up at light heavyweight. Julio Gonzalez took Darius Michalczewski's title. Lost twice to Clinton Woods. Had a great fight with Julian Letterlow, and I think he died.
Fight of the year,
years ago.
Fight of the year.
Great fight. Very, very tough fighter.
Yep. I think he was lineal champion for a wee bit, was he not?
Well, he would have. Didn't he win the lineal title off Michalczewski? They say you can't get a decision in Germany, but that was a close fight, and he managed to get it.
Wasn't Michalczewski 48-0 at the time as well?
Like that, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was involved in some good fight. Some good scraps. Gonzalez actually.
Great fighter. Didn't he fight Roy Jones at one point as well?
I'm pretty sure he did. He must say.
Yeah, he lost on points to Roy.
I mean, I think he fought everyone who was anyone at light heavyweight at that time.
Yeah.
I remember very rightly. So you give it his record up. But any other guys you want to throw in there? Just try to think.
All the Mexicans that Fank gets over for his Box Nation shows. Big shout out to those guys.
Zepeda. I mean, this guy Gonzalez. I mean, he fought. I think he stopped fighting in 2011. He's lost to Cloud. He fought Reggie Johnson. Montel Griffin.
Who's this, Julio Gonzalez?
Aye.
I think, didn't he died?
He fought Erde. I think he died
a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he fought everybody in the division at the time.
He was killed in a motorcycle accident, mate, in Mexico.
That's right, yeah.
2012. I mean, his record is just... so, basically, as I say, it's a who's who of the light heavyweight division at that time. Tony Menifee, I'm sure that guy actually fought Kessler at one point as well. Anyways...
Turned out to be a good question, that.
Aye, it was. Give it a bit more thought. We could have expanded on it slightly, actually. Last question comes from Paul McAllister. Don't forget my question from last week. Why does Andre Ward get a pass for fucking up his career and wanting only easy fights? I can give him maybe 2 fights as a tune-up, seeing as he's been in the ring for 2 years. But being the case, don't be acting like you're the A-side star and stuff like that. I mean, I think he's... Well, there was talk of him fighting on the Cotto Canelo undercard. I don't know if he thinks that's maybe beneath him. I mean, this guy ranks himself high as pound for pound number 2.
Ward doesn't get a pass. I think that's a question that makes false assumptions about who exactly is giving Ward a pass here. I mean, I think Ward is held to a higher standard than most because of his personality. Is not really loved by fans, and his style isn't really loved by fans. He doesn't have a huge fan base. I think Ward's been getting attacked, and justifiably so, since his inactivity began. I think fans, in a large part, have turned off on him and are really against him at this point.
Right. Up next, Bellew of the Week segment. Now, you know what Bellew of the Week is, what it's all about.
Okay, what's the Bellew of the Week? It's going to happen, mate. We're going to do it. And when we do it, it's going to be vicious, mate. I ain't a man dregsing with the weights. I ain't a man taking the last ounces of my soul on the scales. I've done that before. I ain't doing it no more. You can say what you want, oh, Bellew's not in shape, Bellew looks fleshy at the weight. Bellew's just iced a man who's never been done before. Bellew just feels in absolutely fantastic shape. Bellew doesn't lose 2.5 stone no more each time for a camp. Bellew goes to the gym now, 15 stone, and just cuts £10 nice and easy. I fought Nathan Cleverly in my 16th fight, 15 fight novice. The best person I fought was Oval Mackenzie at British title level. I am now, is that 25, is that 26 fights? I've fought some of the best. I've fought the best fighter in the world in my weight class, one of the biggest pound for pound punchers in the world. I've beat guys like Isaac Chilemba, world ranked guys. Let's see who beats Isaac Chilemba. I've beat renowned punchers, Ederson Miranda. I'm not saying he was the best Ederson Miranda, I'm just saying I've beat these guys. Who's he beat? Okay, everyone's saying, well, Tony, he did beat you. He beat a guy who basically got a fight because he opened his mouth at a press conference and he sells a shitload of tickets to the Echo Arena. That's why I got that fight. Everybody thought he was going to smash me. Everyone involved with that fight thought he was going to smash me. But when he went to within an inch of losing, and it's a decision that could have been either way, he doesn't want to come near me after it. That's why he couldn't answer the question then when I said it in front of him. Just answer me this: why wouldn't you take the rematch immediately? Do you know what he said? I think he was saying what that Walsh train station was. That long word. I couldn't understand what he was saying. I just answered the simple question: why wouldn't you fight me the minute after the rematch happened? He wouldn't fight me because he believed he was going to knock me out, and he just believed he was going to beat me up. And that's all I've got to say about that. Let's do it right now. We can do it right now, you fucking rat. Okay, what's the value of the week?
Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 so far. I think Mosley maybe even get 2 nominations. And I've got one. I got inundated with Twitter DMs and stuff like that, basically begging me to put this guy up for a Bellow of the Week this week. And he's actually not even a boxer or anything like that. He's actually a boxing fan, quite big on the forums and stuff, very big in the business side of things, shall we say, of the sport. But I had basically a Chinese parliament with the guys here, and I think all the guys have actually agreed that we should put him forward for this prestigious award this week. So, but anyways, before we do get to him, first up is Tyson Fury for tweeting. He's got Irish blood, English heart. This is I'm made of. There's no one on the earth I'm afraid of, especially not that Russian prick.
Did you see his other tweet as well that he
No,
did? I think it was
no.
yesterday when he actually misspelled his own name. He called himself Tyden Fury.
See, I don't want to really say too much about it because see these phones actually, see these predictive texts, it's a bastard. And if you don't like proofread it sometimes, or you got fat fingers or whatever, sometimes you just fucking forget, and then that's when the trolling starts, you know. So
was Tyson nominated for when he called out on Twitter? He called out some woman because he called out her to fight because he accidentally, because Twitter automatically fills out the name you're trying to tag or whatever, and he pushed the wrong name.
I never saw that one.
I think it was mentioned. Yeah, I remember that. Something he meant to type in someone's name, and the handle came out as a woman, and people were tweeting it. We definitely mentioned it. I don't think it won though.
Next up, I've actually 2 for Shane Mosley. Well, I don't suppose Mosley, Mayorgga, and his girlfriend all thrown in for that debacle at the final press conference or whatever it was. But they actually had a double weigh-in for this fight. Now, they actually had a weigh-in in private, but no one was there, right? Which is probably just as well because the state that Mayorgga was in, you just wonder if they'd maybe been taking diuretics to make weight. And then after they did the official weigh-in, they actually went down to was it Venice Beach, I think it was, and held a public weigh-in for the public and stuff. So,
what was the official agreed weight in the end that they were supposed to come in at?
I thought it was 154.
Well,
really?
he missed it by like 7 pounds or something.
No, it was 162, I believe, from what I read.
Yeah, because do you remember when Mayorgga fought Vargas, and Vargas was into his nachos and cheese stage, and he could barely make flipping 200 pounds, and Mayorgga was calling him fatty and calling out his wife and everything. They ended up having a big chair thrown brawl at the press conference.
I think the funniest thing from the whole Mosley Mayorgga farce is the weighing. They actually misspelt weighing and spelt it waiting. I mean, that just shows how bad the promotion was.
And it was this massive sign.
Yeah, big massive sign with waiting.
Dire, mate, dire.
Only boxing can do that, can't it? It's like when Paul was saying earlier about the times clashing and even just the basics. They can't even get the basics right. I mean, is there any hope? Like,
no.
we can't even get the podcast recorded, so no.
Yeah, I know. Eh?
We're just as bad, like.
Pure amateurs all round. Next nomination goes to George Groves. You like to know this one, Adam. He's basically going on about if he's basically says after twice bowing to Carol Froch in world title bouts, Groves will bid for Badal Jack's super welterweight belt as the opening act for Floyd Mayweather. So he's basically there's two there actually. Super welterweight belt has been put in there from the Guardian. It should be super middleweight, and it looks like Groves is still hoping for a third fight with Carl Froch.
Yeah, well, he actually
Now,
he said
mate,
that. He said that shortly after the Rebras fight. I remember.
You can sense it's going to be a bit like his Vitaly Klitschko, Lennox Lewis, where 10 years later he's still wanting to get Froch out of retirement to have a fight.
The Guardian are serial boxing offenders, aren't they? They seem to get quite a lot wrong. I think they should stick to other things. I mean, I do buy the paper, but maybe boxing is just not something that they should be interested in, because they do make a few bollocks ups.
Yeah, I mean, who's that guy for the Daily Mail? No Quotes Powell. I mean, he is so fucking dire, man. It's untrue.
Oh yeah, I've met him at a show actually. He's an old guy anyway with shock white hair. Jeff Pell.
What does he know about boxing?
I don't think he even knows what time of day it is.
Fucking hell. Must be like
I think he's just been let out the
happy home.
old folks home, hasn't he? Just to get on his iPad and have a little article written.
You get special seat. You get special seating as well. He doesn't sit on press row. He gets his own little special chair, Jeff Powell.
Does he? What's wrong with him? Like he's got piles or something?
No, he's been doing it since like the 60s, hasn't he, Jeff? He's been around a long time, and he's very well respected in the boxing world. But
wait a minute, so he's been writing since the 60s, and he still can't get a decent story put out there, and he's actually probably universally by the boxing fans as deeply derided because he's fucking awful.
He's still, for me, the man that's reported that Mayweather Khan was signed and sealed, and also that he keeps writing stories about Mayweather fighting at Wembley, even though he knows that just can't happen. So yeah, he's a serial offender, Mr. Powell.
But sure, he writes for the Daily Mail, though, doesn't he? I mean, they got shit about. I mean, as long thinking Princess Diana and a free holiday to the flipping Saint-Tropez, that's all they're interested in. Like, he doesn't give a shit. He just turns up and sits there and writes any old nonsense.
They're just glad for the hits as well on the website.
Yeah.
The final nomination I got, this was the one I got bombarded with actually. I mean, Christ, I was only away from my desk for about 10 minutes. I came back to something like fucking 15, 20 DMs about this. Rob Palmer actually asked Stephen Espinosa, who is the vice president, I think, is a Showtime or president of Showtime Sports or whatever, quite a valid question actually about the Super Six. The super middleweight tournament. If Showtime actually held the official rights for it. If obviously, I think if HBO had thought about maybe doing it, another version of it and stuff like that. He got a response. Problem was, it was from the parody account of Steve Espinosa. And I think Rob has then tweeted it out or posted it on the forum or whatever, and it says, indeed, this is a response from the fake Stephen Espinosa. Indeed, as Show Sports owns the rights to any form of round-robin tournament, and HBO boxing could face legal action if copied. The only thing is, he never proofread the guy's name. You can see the subtle differences in the spelling.
That does sound like something the little wank stain Stephen Espinosa would say, though.
Yeah, he is a bit of schneid, isn't he? I've not seen him kicking around much on Twitter just now, so I wonder if he's been blocked me. I need to get that checked out. Not that old fucking MMA world, mind you. But anyway, so that's the nominations I've got so far. Paul, I think you had one for Eddie Hearn.
Yeah, so first on Eddie Hearn, an IFL interview a couple of weeks ago has come back to bite him this week when he announced that Tony Bellew will be fighting on the McDonnell-Kameda card in America because, and I quote, nobody wants to see Bellew in an 8 or 10 rounder on the Leeds bill. That was his exact words. And Matchroom have decided to announce that. Yeah, Matchroom have decided to announce that Tony the Bomber Bellew will be in an 8-rounder on the Leeds Josh Warrington bill on Saturday. So it's a slight contradiction from Mr. Hearn on that one. After saying nobody wants to see this, I thought was pretty harsh. The other one was Shannon Briggs. This is quite a recent one. Has announced that he is trying to copyright and trademark the saying "Let's go, champ." So no one else will be able to use it because he of course invented that sentence.
What a
so
wanker.
He deserves to own it.
Terrible, Terrible.
That wins it for me.
Steve, what you got, mate?
Nothing at all, but Shannon Briggs. That I hate shit like that.
Dave.
Well, it has nothing to do with boxing, but I'm surprised nobody mentioned Kanye West saying he's going to run for president in 2020.
No, wrong podcast.
We ignore American things. Your politics is too far gone. We don't even bother getting involved.
Yeah, Washington's drowning in a sea of its own bullshit. Adam, what you got, mate?
If we're doing retrospective Eddie Hearn Bellew of the weeks, let's go for Martin Murray will be in his first championship fight. is now in for some international
He is.
silver bollocks
That's a belt.
against a career light middleweight that I think was knocked down multiple times by David Limit.
Just a 7.
7. But no, my genuine value of the week was a press release to, I was going to say commemorate, but that's the wrong word, to shout about Dylan White's title fight. And the title is the International Silver Heavyweight title from our friends at the WBC. And it's that bad I've even forgot the opponent.
Dominic Gwynn.
So we're now doing press releases for Dominic Gwynn fights for WBC International Silver Heavyweight titles. What a world we live in.
Gwynn could beat him.
I mentioned that actually during the WBA rant and stuff about WBC bringing in this international silver title, and that's when I mentioned the bronze and the palladium bullshit. Yeah, but I agree with Steve. I don't think that Gwynn... what's his name again? That's been right on my head.
Dominic Dillian White.
Dillian White, that's the fucking...
And Gwynn can do the rounds. He's proven that time and time again.
If the fight starts to go a bit, Gwynn, an old punch bag sits in there, plenty of experience. I mean, have we seen enough from White to suggest that he's, the real deal yet?
No, I think, most people with White, they're basing it all on an amateur fight with Anthony Joshua, and both were young and had hardly any experience whatsoever. That's what his whole thing's based on, and we're yet to see him face anyone of note yet, and this will be his first test, whether it's Gwynn's old or not. The guy's been in with a lot of people like Pulev, Tony Thompson. He's always done the rounds. I don't think he's ever been stopped, so if he can go the rounds here, how do we know what White's gas tank's like, or is he going to get frustrated? So I mean, that fight and Joshua against Cornish, I know which one I think because there's a much better chance of an upset going on.
If he does upset him, what would they do with Joshua on December the 12th, do you think?
Rematch.
Dominic Gwynn.
Rematch.
Dominic Gwynn.
They would have run out of that many options. They'll put him in with Kell Brook.
They might have to.
No, but Dominic Gwynn, he sport the pay-per-view. Now Joshua wants revenge. That's the whole angle right there.
Mayorgga will be up at weight. He's a name. What are they chucking him with?
Yeah, they'll have Joshua's girlfriend bend over and Mayorgga slap her.
Oh, fuck, the point is bring Chino over. I mean, he looks like he's a heavyweight just now.
He wouldn't be able to get down to heavyweight.
Right, so we've got George Groves, Mosley, Mayorgga and his girlfriend for multiple offences, Rob Palmer, Tyson Fury, Eddie Hearn, Shannon Briggs. What did he do again?
He's trademarking Let's Go Champ. Can I also just throw in Denis Kornilovs, the Latvian light welterweight who managed to lose to Robin Deakin?
Oh, so it was only his second victory or something like that, wasn't it?
The Matchroom press team is the nomination from me.
I can't nominate them for obvious reasons.
Right, so Matchroom from Adam, Steve.
Shannon Briggs for me.
Shannon Briggs, Dave.
I think that just the historic occasion of the Mosley Mayorgga rematch, the independent promotion, just the whole thing. I'm going to nominate that for Bellew, or not nominate, vote for that for Bellew of the week.
Nice, that's 1-1-1 so far. Paul?
Yeah, same. That the whole build-up from start to finish has just been one long Bellew of the week contender. So Mosley, the Mosley Mayorgga rematch for me.
Kurt, you can have a deciding vote here, mate.
No, I think I'm going to nominate Rob Palmer for the what he got wrong. That was pretty funny, I thought.
How do you know it was Rob and it wasn't a parody account of Rob?
Because I believe the initial tweet ended up getting deleted.
Has Rob got a parody account yet?
He has a I was going to say he has a parody account.
No. Yeah, I think there's guys on that forum obviously go about with parody accounts just trying to troll the guy or whatever. But no, I think his tweet was legit from his account. I think, and I think he ended up deleting the original question.
Or he could do a Tyson Fury and say his cousin's got hold of his phone and tweeted Stephen Espinosa.
Andy, I think you take my nomination as my actual vote. My vote's for Rob Palmer.
All right. So, see, the thing is, he could claim like Rebecca Brooks maybe hacked his phone, and just like what the Sun did with some of the phone hackings with celebrities, and that he could claim that, but he hadn't. So he kind of then retrospectively said his phone's been hacked. So. Yeah, I think we've got to give him the vote. So, Rob Palmer, son, well, congratulations. You are a Bellew of the Week award winner.
So, one quick thing on Espinosa. He tweeted, there are no losers in a fight like this with Santa Cruz Mahrez, and that's factually incorrect.
Yeah, you kind of see what he's getting at, really, but
It's not true.
you can't.
Mahrez
You can't really see, officially, but you can't really see where Mahrez goes next. Actually, I mean, I dare say he got a couple of good fights, a couple of good paydays, but depends who he's going to be facing and what, at what weight. Because I mean, it's courtesy. I think officially, I think I said last week, Walters, for instance, was staying at 130. Let me get this right. 126. He's now confirmed he's got up to 130 now. So these guys at featherweight are huge, and I don't think Santa Cruz is fully filled out to that weight yet.
Are you going for pedantic of the week, Paul?
Oh, I just like to see people. I hate when people say that. It's like everyone's a winner. It's like a kid's sports day. There are no losers tonight. Well,
but it is. He'll get a PBC medal and driven home.
And a hug from his mom and a drive home. Yeah, I love it.
Right, discussion. We got a discussion in from who sent us this one in, Kurt?
I got no idea.
It's quite a fair question.
Someone who hates Frank Warren, wasn't it?
Yeah, sorry if I've not got your name here, mate, but thanks for sending this in. I'll just read it out. Hypothetical question. Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren co-promote and stage a one-night tournament between their boxers across 7 weight classes. Each fight will be over 5 rounds with a point awarded to the winning fighter or half a point in the case of a draw. The stable with the most points at the end of the night wins. In the weight classes below, who would you pick for each side and who wins? The weight divisions are bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, super middleweight, and heavyweight. See, before we even start guessing, guys, as to which fighters would beat who, I think Hearn's team would wipe their arse with Warren's team. Joshua against Chisora.
Yeah, Joshua knocking next week.
Buglioni against De Gale. Fucking hell. Middleweight, who's he got middleweight? John Ryder. I think this is maybe where Warren might pick up a few points here.
Yeah, Saunders.
Against Ryder.
Yeah.
Welterweight, Brook against Skeet. Lightweight, Ricky Burns against... Who's he got? Lightweight, is it Romeo Romeo? Is he a lightweight?
No, he's got Terry Flanagan, remember?
Oh, Terry Flanagan, yep. Turbo Flanagan, sorry.
Flanagan, yeah, for me. I think Flanagan would beat Burns at this stage of his career.
Would you
put Burns as Matchroom's number one lightweight?
Say what, mate?
Would you put Burns as Matchroom's number one lightweight at the moment?
I would, but Eddie and quite a few others wouldn't. Because that guy doesn't get promoted much now at all, is he? I mean, it's like he's the fucking forgotten man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, if you ask me, do I think Burns would beat Mitchell and Crawler? I think he would, even now, to be honest. But yeah, he doesn't get promoted or pushed, does he? So at the moment, it's Crawler, it's Kevin Mitchell, and then Burns is just way behind.
Burns is a wee bit like that ginger-headed stepchild, just a complete annoyance. So you just slap him in the corner and that. Featherweight, who's he got at featherweight? Selby against
Mitchell? No, not Smith. Mitchell Smith.
Mitchell Smith. Well, that's an easy win for Selby, obviously.
Mitchell Smith against Josh Warrington would be a decent fight, I think. I would maybe fancy Smith to beat Warrington, because Warrington doesn't punch that hard, does he?
No. Now, bantamweight, the only one I can think of, and I know he's not really a bantamweight, it's super flyweight, but Paul Butler against Calvify. That's the only one I can think of at bantamweight.
Close.
That'd be a good
fight, isn't it? That.
Well, I've got Jim McDonnell, he's a bantamweight, but I don't know.
That's probably the one fight that you'd like to see between the two stables, to be honest. I mean, the rest of them, they're all shit and one-sided. I mean, people talk about, it's totally different to, say, Golden Boy and Aaron from a few years back. They're just, one stable's got all the fighters and one stable's struggling on its arse. It's pointless.
Yeah, I think Team Hearn would be coming out of that pretty smelling the roses, and Adam and his ilk will be running about chanting Matchroom. I thought you'd be a believer again, Adam, if that shit was to come to pass.
Sorry, mate.
Nothing. It's okay. It's okay. Right, fight schedule for next week. Now, just to let listeners know, is because McDonald Kameda 2 is on Sunday, and I believe the fight will be starting about 9 PM UK time. We're looking to maybe start the podcast maybe about half hour early. And it's looking like we're going to start transferring our shit over from Mixler to Google Hangouts, because this Mixler carry-on is just beyond a joke now. So that being the case, guys, we'll just jump into the Sunday card and we'll discuss very briefly the Sky card for next week. And I think Jurgen Bremer fights next week as well. But Jimmy McDonald rematch against Tomoki Kameda. How you seen this fight going, guys? Is McDonald? I really think he could probably pull it off a wee bit more convincingly this time. He'll know what to expect from Kameda. I don't think he was hurt when he got dropped with the left hook. I think it was more his speed. And probably surprised at the punch that put him down. I think he's a wee bit more embarrassed about it. But the thing is, if that fight goes down the stretch, I think Kameda's basically stated now he's going to move up in weight, regardless of the result. McDonald's mentioned it, so is there maybe a wee issue with the weight here? Who knows? But we do know that McDonald's work rate is superior, especially going down the stretch. I forget how many punches he threw in that first fight, but he certainly won the fight on the scorecards by, if you look at the last 2 rounds, which really pushed out the fight for him in the end. And I think McDonald could do it slightly more wider this time. So give me your take, guys. What do you think? And what are you thinking about the card? Darrell against Rubio?
Shit.
Will Rubio make weight?
That fight's just a typical PBC crap, but Conor Kameda's a good fight. The first fight was close. It's just how did each fighter approach the fight? Did Kameda go in, expecting the win, thinking it wouldn't be a tough fight? And, maybe he knows what he's up against now. McDonald showed that and proved what, he's a really good fighter. And same McDonald, did he go in not knowing how good he was, and he's got so much more confidence from getting the victory? It's tough.
The thing is, mate, he went into that fight with no trainer because his trainer didn't want to fly on the fucking flight. He then had to phone Dave Caldwell and Tony Bellew to tell them to get their arse out to Spain, out to Texas to help him. I read somewhere that the minibus that he'd hired to get him from point A to point B at training camp broke down. So there he's stuck in some little hick town in fucking Texas with a fucking tumbleweed flying past with a shit shack for a fucking petrol station in front of him. He had to go and try and get some help. I don't think his preparation was all that great in all honesty leading up to that fight. So if he's got a good camp behind him this time, as I say, he might do it more convincingly this time.
Like I said, his work rate, it's going to be on point. And can Kameda deal with that again? I thought Kameda started well in the first fight, but it's not that so much he faded, but McDonald just stepped on the gas and just could carry on. So if Kameda can deal with that again, it's going to be close either way. It's a hard one to say, but McDonald done it for the first time. He can certainly do it again, but it's a hard one to pick. It's a 50-50 again for me.
What about the rest of you guys? 50-50 for you?
I think McDonald will do it. I've spoke to one of the guys on our website. Matt knows the McDonald's well, and Coldwell. He works for Coldwell, and the preparations have gone really well. I think they really fancy it. Things have gone a lot smoother than last time, and all they have to do is avoid a heavy shot from Kameda, because Kameda isn't really notable for being a big puncher, but he has been able to hurt McDonald in the first fight. I think it will go the distance, but I think Jamie's work rate is really underrated. He really fights the rounds very hard, and I think he'll just outwork him and win it something like 116, 112.
I think the knockdown in the first fight was pretty significant, but it just showed Jamie's fitness really and heart and tenacity to come back into it. I certainly wouldn't call it a flash knockdown. I thought it was a pretty big knockdown, of which he recovered well from. But the odds ahead of this fight are almost identical to the first fight. Jamie McDonald is actually the outsider across the board, only slightly, but Kameda is odds on again, only just, but. Another close fight. I'm looking forward to it, and it's a pleasant change being on a Sunday night. That Rubio fight's a disgusting fight, to be honest, and that is typically PBC. But this McDonald Kameda, it's a good fight, but I doubt that either of them are commanding pay packages like Leo Santa Cruz is demanding. So it's almost a decent PBC fight by accident, if you like, or not by accident, but by cheap. I don't think they deserve any credit for making this fight, to be honest with you. And, I don't think he cares much who actually wins, Mr. Heyman, to be honest. But, yeah, looking forward to it. I think McDonald can do it.
Steve?
Yeah, just very briefly from me. Fancy McDonald. I think it's a real 50-50. I don't pick McDonald by any great confidence. I think he could just as easily swing the other way. I think they're evenly matched. McDonald's output might just be the difference, but great fight. Fair play to McDonald for going over. If he moves up to super bantamweight, then I genuinely believe he'll be aiming for the likes of Rigondeaux. No messing about with him. He seems like he's willing to take the challenge. So more power to him. He's done great with his career, and great respect for McDonald. Hope he pulls it off.
Yeah, I've got a lot of respect for him. I mean, this is probably one. I think he's only one or two guys I can think of just now who are active. Cleverly being the other one who's actually went the traditional route. I mean, you could slag Nick Cleverly for his WBO reign or whatever, but this is a guy. McDonald's a guy who's worked himself up from Commonwealth, British, European to world title level, and it's not the first time McDonald's had to travel as well. I mean, I think he went to France. I think it was. Did he go to France and defend his European title at one point?
I think he did, yeah.
Or was that? Am I thinking about Gavin Rees?
No, I don't know if Reese did or not. I think McDonald did he travelled somewhere at some point. Haskins travelled, didn't he? Didn't he go to Belgium?
Yeah,
Might be him.
Aye.
I don't know. I can't remember, Andy, to be honest with you.
Anyways, Dave, where do you sit with this fight, mate?
I think it's another 50-50, probably a close fight. If anything will be different, I expect maybe that Heyman team will have the judges influenced this time around, because last one was a close one that could have gone either way. This time, I think they'll be telling the judges, if it's a close one that could have gone either way, give it to our guy, because why wouldn't they? I mean, why else is this rematch happening? I think they want Kameda to sort of erase that blemish on his record. And was
there no rematch clause? Was that no reason why this fight's happening? Kameda exercised it.
I don't know anything about the contracts in a fight like this, but we'll see what happens. I think I would favor Kameda to take the points decision if it goes the distance this time, because of the Heyman factor.
Right, now Saturday sees us a card from Sky. Now, Adam, anything you're looking forward to in this card? Josh Warrington against Joe Brunkner. Now, Brunkner got stopped, I think it was 9 rounds with Lee Selby, I think. Bit of an anomaly, this one, actually. I mean, I really don't know how good Brunkner really is, in all honesty. I think he's probably a decent enough level boxer, maybe Commonwealth level. But if Warrington's getting the big push...
Hello?
Warrington's getting the big something, anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, Warrington has just been picking up Selby's, sloppy seconds throughout his career, basically. I think Bronco got dominated. I mean, Selby has got that in his locker to dominate most people on the planet, to be fair, at featherweight, but he embarrassed Bronco at times, and, we could have stopped him a bit earlier from what I can remember. Bronco's had one fight since then, back in Australia, a 2-round blowout against some bloke with 10 losses on his record. Warrington himself couldn't be much more different, to be honest, than Selby. Warrington will come forward, Selby certainly won't. So it would definitely be a visually different fight this time between Brunker and Warrington than it was Brunker and Selby. I think Brunker's got the ability to give Warrington problems along the way. Warrington, although he sells tickets, he hasn't showed us anything really that is at world level, and Brunker isn't that far off world level, to be fair. So it's a good test, and it's Warrington. Well, whichever way you look at it, Warrington has developed quite nicely along the way. He's gone through the titles. Brunker, I think, as Andy said, Commonwealth level, I think he probably is a bit better than that, but he's going to give Warrington some problems. That is for sure. Warrington, as you expect, is another strong favourite, but it's the undercard really that needs to be criticised, because it's absolute dump. But I'll let you guys start that bit.
I think Brunker will give him problems. I wouldn't even be surprised if Brunker beat him. I don't really rate Warrington at all, to be honest with you. I know Brunker's not the best fighter in the world, but I know they're not going to be bringing a guy over to beat Warrington, true enough, but the way Warrington struggled with that 2B error on, the fact that he couldn't even hurt him, the guy had been stopped a couple of times whenever he'd gone anywhere near anything resembling world level, that was all set up for Warrington to get the stoppage. Couldn't manage it. As the fight went on, he started looking worse and worse. Never in doubt that he was going to win it. It was a landslide, but he should have really been getting that guy out of there. And Mitchell Smith showed that exact same point by knocking him out in a single round.
Yep.
So there's definite question marks about Warrington, and anyone with a pulse, anyone who's half decent, will beat him. Whether Bunker's the man remains to be seen. But I would not be at all surprised if Bunker didn't beat him. But they are.
You can get 4-1 Bunker if anyone who fancies him. You can get.
Well, I'm not a betting man, so you can chuck a quid on my behalf, Adam. But I wouldn't be surprised if he did it. To be honest, I really wouldn't.
I see Stu Hall's back on that card. He's got a 6-rounder. I mean, I know Cal Yafai's got a British title fight coming up at some point against fuck's he fighting against? Is it Jason Cunningham or something like that?
That's the problem with this card. It's the card of warm-up. So Cal Yafai and Jason Cunningham are both on this card in non-existent fights. Stuart Hall's in a total non-fight. Tony Bellew's in one of those awful last-minute TBA fights. And the last 2 Matchroom shows they announced, Liverpool and Birmingham, don't have any of these kind of fights on them. And you can start to see how they should be going or how they want to go. I think Hearn knows that no one likes these kind of fights, but this card is flooded with them, and I think it has the potential, unless the main event's decent, this could even rival Newcastle and Birmingham for 2 of the worst shows Matchroom have put on this year, because the undercard is that shit. And I don't know what they're going to televise. They will televise Bellew, but who's he going to be in with? I mean, really, who are they going to get on this kind of notice? It's going to be abysmal.
They've got an English super featherweight title on there. That might make it on TV, Andy Townend versus Lee Glover, but, Are
you asking the question, Paul, who wants to see Tony Bellew in an 8-rounder on this Leeds show?
Yes.
Well, a question that was well asked by a certain promoter, yeah. I mean, these are just awful fights. They're going to, if they're off TV, they're excusable. Stuart Hall, I don't mind he's going to be in a 6-round or whatever it is. It won't be shown live. He wants to be fighting back. He wants to be, getting himself in shape for another crack at a world title or a European shot. But we won't. We'll see you'll see your fight, and we'll see Bellew's fights. And there is no reason on earth why any of them should be getting Sky Sports airtime. You don't see the American networks doing it, but we want more boxing, but we want more competitive fights. Those fights will suck all of the crappy atmosphere out of that EDL filled stadium.
Dave, you want to shut on this card before we wrap it up, mate? I mean, I'm just looking at this Jose Miguel Torres, actually. I mean, I've no seen much of this guy, in all honesty, but stopped in 7 against David Lemieux. I think he dropped a decision against Yodel Johnson.
I don't even care. I was just letting you guys shit on it because most of these guys are just a bunch of British hype jobs who probably won't ever amount to anything. Let them fight a bunch of bums. I'm not going to pay attention to it until anything meaningful comes along. So whatever, if anything funny happens, you guys will bring it up next pod.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I don't know whose microwave that was in the background, but it's probably a good time to actually ring the bell and end the podcast. I say apologies to the listeners again about the Mixler situation. It looks like we're going to fuck it off and go hangouts for next week, so stay tuned. I did warn you before the show started, actually, that we were getting some sort of message from Mixler saying there was a problem with the bandwidth. Again, problems out with our control. But anyway, I'd like to thank the panel, Kurt Ward, Paul Webb, Steve Wellens, David Lowback, Adam Smith, Alex Morris for popping on there, and Donnie Baseball. I've been your host, Andy Patterson, and we'll see you on Sunday. All the best.
Peace.